Alright, guys, so today we're going to be doing an introduction into our topic of slavery, kind of just getting an idea of what life was like for slaves and particularly for people who were trying to escape slavery on the Underground Railroad. So we're going to start with the book called Moses, when Harriet Tubman led her people to freedom. And here we have a foreword. Slavery is a practice in which one person, known as a master, is allowed through customs or even laws to own another human being. From 1619 to 1865, Africans and their descendants were enslaved in colonial America in the United States. This was the first time in history that enslavement was based solely on skin color. As property, slaves in the United States had no rights. A person born a slave was a slave for life and was forced to work long hours at sometimes dangerous tasks. Slaves who disobeyed could be severely punished. Further, slaves could be sold by one master to another. Such sales often separated slave families forever. Many states forbade slaves to learn to read and write. Slaves had almost no chance of improving themselves or their living conditions. So start thinking in your head about what you think it might be like to live as a slave. Someone who has no rights, someone who legally belongs to someone else and who gets separated from their family. In 1820, there were about 1.5 million slaves in the United States. Wow, that's a lot. By 1861, the slave population had risen to more than 4 million. Slaves were stirred by sermons about the ancient Israelites' journey out of Egypt and drew hope from African American spirituals, songs that sometimes contained coded messages to aid escapes. Somewhere between 40,000 and 100,000 slaves escaped to freedom through a loose network of helpers and hideaways known as the Underground Railroad. So if any of you guys have heard of the Underground Railroad, you might have heard of the name Harriet Tubman, and this book is going to tell the story of Harriet Tubman's first escape from slavery. On a summer night, Harriet goes at the sky and talks with God. "I am your child, Lord. Yet master owns me, drives me like a mule. Now he means to sell me south in chains to work cotton, rice, indigo, or sugarcane, never to see my family again." God speaks in a whip-poor-will's song. "I set the North Star in the sky, in the heavens, and I mean for you to be free." Harriet sees the star twinkling. "My mind is made up. Tomorrow I flee." God wraps her in the blanket of night, and she returns to the cabin, sleeps beside her husband one last time. So we can tell that because of her conversation with God, she's planning on making an escape. The next day, Harriet tells not a soul her plans. She grips the axe to chop wood, breathes deeply, and murmurs, "Lord, I'm going to hold steady onto you." And God whispers back in the breeze, "I'm going to see you through, child." At dusk, Harriet chants, "When that old chariot comes, I'm going to leave you." She hopes her loved ones hear her song and know it means farewell. So Harriet's leaving behind some people that she loves because it's safer to just go by herself. While the plantation sleeps, Harriet prays, "Lord, send me a sign." Owl screeches. The hour has come. Harriet slips into the night. Running through the swamp, she hears a frog's croaking and her own heart pounding. So you can tell from her heart pounding that she's nervous. "Lord, I can't make it alone." In the moon's reflection on the creek, she sees God's face. "Harriet, you dreamed that saints saved you, but mortals will give you refuge." The woman in the wagon who always spoke kindly to me. "Yes, Harriet, I must go to her." You can tell here, by the way that the font's changing, that this is an interjection from God's voice, and this is Harriet speaking to him. The woman points Harriet to safe havens, hiding places for runaways, and Harriet steals away into the darkness. She creeps through the wood, her heart flutters, hoofbeats. "Please, Lord, don't let them catch me and take me back to face Master's whip." So we can tell that maybe she's been punished by her master before, or whipped. "Don't let my journey end here." In the underbrush, Harriet sinks into a deep sleep. God cradles her. When she wakes, the men on horseback have passed, and day breaks. "Thank you, Lord, for watching over me." In a clearing, the safe haven, Harriet knows that most strangers would turn her in, not help her. So this kind of gives us an idea of what maybe other people besides the masters and slaves felt about slavery and about runaway slaves. That most people would turn her in and not help her. But the farmer's wife feeds Harriet and tells her to sweep the yard. I don't know who to trust, Lord. Search for my face in theirs, and for my hands in their work. What have you in your hands? In a dust cloud, she sees the broom become a staff, then a rifle. Harriet startles, but holds on. I will arm you against your enemies, but you will not harm a soul, and no harm will come to you. So here God's giving her something to protect herself, but warns her not to hurt other people. The dust settles as she stops weeping, and all is as it was. At nightfall, Harriet climbs into a wagon, and the farmer covers her with blankets. As the wagon wobbles along, Harriet worries that it is heading to jail. Should I leap, Lord? Trust me to protect you, child. A heart song lulls her to sleep. Swing low, sweet chariot. The wagon stops at dawn. Harriet walks till her legs ache. Then she leans against a tree. Lord, I miss my folks. Harriet, your father taught you to read the stars, predict the weather, gather wild berries, and make cures from roots. Use his lessons to be free. You will meet again. A mosquito buzzes in Harriet's ear. She rises and moves on. So Harriet's missing her family, but has to keep going. A boatman rows her upriver. Back on shore, hounds snarl, sniff for Harriet's trail. She races as fast as she can. So they have people out searching for her, trying to bring her back to her master. Lord, I can't outrun them. God speaks through a babbling brook. Shed your shoes, wade into the water, and trick the dogs. Upstream, the barking ceases, and fear washes away. Thank you, Lord. Harriet's feet bleed and her gut churns. Under the stars, she draws near to God. Lord, don't let nobody turn me round. I'd rather die than be a slave. Harriet, keep going. You have already glimpsed the future. She recalls dreams where she flew like a bird, sank and was lifted by ladies in white who pulled her north. Fly, Harriet, your faith has wings. So I think here we can interpret wings and flight as the symbol for freedom. Up ahead, she hears word that patrollers are nabbing runaways and crouches for days in a potato hole, dreams she's buried alive. Have you deserted me, Lord? Harriet, when you were a girl, you hid in a pig pen to shun the whip. So we can tell she's been a slave since she was a young girl. You fought hogs for table scraps, almost starved before you faced the lash. I am with you now, as I was then. An old prayer comes back to her. Lord, make me strong. Help me fight. After 7 days, Harriet rises from that hole like a sapling, reaches for the sun as if to touch God's hand. By moonlight, she marches on, making her way mile after rugged mile, hiding in haystacks, attics, and barns, holding God's hand all the while. She often wearies. How far, Lord? As far as you can walk with me, my child, and I can carry you. Do you guys think this sounds like a pretty treacherous, demanding journey? I think so. When Harriet is about to drop, a couple in a wagon ride by. They say slavery is a sin, and they take her on the last leg of her journey. Not far now, child, not far now. In the promised land, Philadelphia, the sun shines gold in the trees, and Harriet feels light as a cloud. She studies herself from head to toe to see if she has wings. So here we see that returning symbol of wings and flight as a symbol for freedom. Is this heaven, Lord? Not heaven, Harriet. Free soil. But freedom brings new woes. Lord, I'm a stranger here. All my kin are down south. Would you like to see them? As Harriet dusts, her family's faces appear in the wood grain. She wipes a tear from the table. I would make a home for them here. I would give my own life to free them. Then go back for them, daughter. But first, go to my house to prepare for the journey. And Harriet goes to church. Finds not just holy ground, but a stopping place, a station along the Underground Railroad that slaves traveled to freedom. So here we have that Underground Railroad that we learned about in the foreword. Harriet hands out shirts and shoes, serves butterbeans and biscuits to newly arrived runaways, while agents who plot escape paths pass on secret routes that she learns by heart. Finally, a conductor, a guide. She turns to God. I am ready, Lord. Lead me. Harriet, I will make a way for you. Risking her own life, Harriet turns to the dreaded South and rescues her family. But she dreams of slaves still in the yoke. She hears their groans, sees their tears, tosses and turns in her sleep. So Harriet can still relate to the feelings of the slaves who are still trapped in the South. Then God opens her eyes. Harriet, be the Moses of your people. But I am a lowly woman, Lord. Harriet, I have blessed you with a strong body, a clever mind. You heal the sick and see the future. Use your gifts to break the chains. I will do as you say, Lord. I will show others the way to freedom that you have shown me. Save all you can, daughter. And Harriet heeds God's call, goes south again and again, keeps her bands of runaways moving, come storms and rough country, clear to Canada, Canaan land. And when free souls sing her praises, she gives glory where it is due. It wasn't me, it was the Lord. I always trust him to lead me, and he always does. Well done, Moses. Well done. So I hope you guys got a little bit of a feel for what it might have been like for a runaway slave while they were living on the plantation, the rough paths that many of them had to endure to try to find freedom, and also maybe caught onto the motif that there was a lot of religion in place, specifically for Harriet Tubman, and she really relied on God and her faith to see her through.